is Jason JROCK Houston, and you're listening to Chaotic Riffs Magazine. Our special guest tonight is Westfield Massacre singer Sean Nicols. How are you doing tonight, Sean?
Great, Jason. Thanks for having me on the show.
Yeah, thanks. Now, a lot of people know you. First came to know you, Sean, years ago, like myself, because you were briefly a member of Adler's Appetite. What year are we talking there?
Well, I first joined Adler's Appetite in 2005, and I performed with Steven Adler and a revolving group of musicians on and off till I think 2009.
Okay, and what led you to depart from that project? Was it just time to move on, or?
Yeah, circumstances just pushed me into other projects, and life kind of carried me in a different direction and different choices and things like that. So I think the last tour that I did with Adler was in 2009. We did a U.S. tour. It was on a bus, and that's when that was with Alex Grossi on guitar.
Okay. And let me ask you, these days you're going by the name Sean Nicols. Back then you were going by Sheldon Tarsha. I was kind of curious, why are you going by Sean Nicols now? Did you just feel like this was a fresh start? You're kind of getting your career going again, or?
Yeah, I reached a point in my life where I felt that I needed a change, and as a writer and a creative artist, I figured that I might as well just start with a fresh slate, and so I wanted to give myself a new beginning, and that entailed getting a new name.
Okay, and I know shortly after you left Adler's Appetite, you put out a couple of great solo CDs under the band name Tarsha. Did you ever get a chance to do any live shows behind those releases?
Yeah, I formed a band called Tarsha, and the final lineup consisted of Patrick Morgan on bass, Kyle Cunningham on drums, and excuse me. Hold on 1 second.
Sure.
I'm sorry.
That's all right.
Can we pause? For 1 second?
Sure.
Thanks. Hold on 1 second.
Okay.
Hello, Jason?
Yes, are you there?
I'm sorry. We're loading into the club right now, and I had to tend to a quick thing right now. So can we just pick back up where I left off?
Yeah, sure.
Okay, cool.
And basically we're talking about you'd released a couple CDs under the Tarsha band name, and I asked you if you had done any live shows to support those releases.
Yeah, so I did several live performances. The final lineup consisted of bass player Patrick Morgan, drummer Kyle Cunningham, and guitarist Jimmy Douglas.
Okay.
And we did several performances. We actually opened up for Steel Panther several times at the House of Blues on Sunset Boulevard, and we ended up supporting Anvil at the Anaheim House of Blues.
How cool is that? Now, Tarsha, I really dug the music, and I was kind of curious, what led to the band breaking them, and what was the response you got at the time, when you put those CDs out?
The response was great. I was able to promote the single off of the Prophecies album, Dirty, onto internet radio, and it ended up charting on the Rock Top 30 on Live 365 radio.
Wow. And
it stayed in the top 30 for 77 weeks, which was huge. I mean, we're getting really good response, really strong support from all the internet outlets, and we had a number of terrestrial radio stations that picked it up as well, all across the country and around the world, Italy and Germany and Russia and South America, and just it was amazing. I mean, I had basically made an impact with Steven Adler and Adler's Appetite, and I kept a lot of those contacts, and when it came time to release my own music, I reached out through email and other methods, and people were very receptive to it and helped me, spread the word and get that thing off the ground.
And let me ask, what led to it breaking up? Was just more of a financial thing that you couldn't keep it going?
There never really was a breakup. It really just came down to priorities, and at that time in my life, my priorities were shifting, and it takes a lot of work to keep an original band going.
Yeah.
And, there were just a lot of different things happening at the time. And I was gearing myself more toward my personal life and, getting into, kind of a different mode of life. I was in my early 30s. Starting a family was something that I wanted to do.
I hear you.
So I had been going nonstop for 18 years with my music career, and I just decided that it was time to take some time for myself and, relax a little bit and get into some of my deeper family values.
And let me ask you, what was that like? Because, going from the life of a touring musician and to all of a sudden, like you said, starting a family and, taking time off from a, music business and doing something different. Did that take a while to adjust to?
Yeah, it was incredibly difficult. Just adjusting from being in Hollywood, North Hollywood, and around music my whole life to living in the suburbs and, being stepdad and then actual father.
Yeah.
That was an incredible experience. It was ups and downs and all arounds. And, I'm still processing that period of my life. But, ultimately I'm thankful for the experience. Pulling back out of music for that time gave me an opportunity to go back to school and get a business degree, which I'm really proud of.
Well, that's kind of like what Duff McKagan did. He took a few years off from music and started writing for magazines, went to business school and got his degree. So that's a great thing you did there.
Yeah, it really changed my life for the better, and just to become more informed in critical thinking and the world of business, and to learn how to assess sources of information and really drill down to the heart of an issue has been invaluable in my life so far. Yeah.
So I was curious, when you first got out of music, did you get a regular 9-to-5 job? What type of work were you doing at that time?
I was still doing a lot of freelance recording work.
Okay.
I actually did a full-length record for a group called Steel Shine with Dave Henslerling.
Oh, wow.
Michael Diamond Phillips, from Carmine Apice's band, King Cobra.
Okay, yeah. Yeah, wow.
And I did some various other projects with Liberty and Justice.
Okay.
And I kept busy. I still had an income going with the music thing and with my recording studio. So
cool.
that was a nice source of income. But I also leaned on loans for financial aid.
Wow.
So that I could really focus on school and put my full attention into my studies.
Now, let me ask you, in regards to the Tarsha CDs, are those out of print now, or do you have any plans to maybe re-release those at a later date?
I've thought about re-releasing. At the time that I produced those, my mixing and production capabilities were somewhat limited.
Okay.
Since then, I've actually improved my setup, and I've thought about remixing those records and re-releasing them. So that is something that could be on the horizon.
And now, so you've been keeping busy in music for a few years, and then until just I guess last year, 2016. I can't remember a month, but it was announced that you were going to be taking Jizzy Pearl's place in the band Quiet Riot. Can you talk at all about how that opportunity came about?
Yeah, well, after I graduated, I got my bachelor's in business administration in the spring of 2016, and I separated from my long-term relationship that I had, developed over those 8 years or whatnot.
Sorry to hear that.
Yeah, I mean, it was thrust upon me, and I was kind of rolling with the changes, and I didn't really know what I was going to do. I thought that I might just, move into the corporate world. I'm very interested in business, obviously, with my business degree, and that's kind of the trajectory that I was on. And it was Ira Black that reached out to me first and, presented me with the opportunity to perform at the Ultimate Jam Night in Hollywood.
Wow.
And, so I was like, yeah, I'd love to. So I joined up with Ira, and we did a few performances there at the Ultimate Jam Night, and after performing there, I reached out to Alex Grossi and said, hey, man, you know, it's been forever. And he's like, yeah. He's like, dude, nothing's changed, man. He's like, 8 years has gone by. He's like, it's still the same people at the Rainbow.
Wow.
Every night. You're not missing anything, man. Good for you for going back to school and doing something meaningful with your time. You know, everybody's just doing the same old shit. So that was nice to hear from him. And it was about maybe 6 months later that he reached out to me.
Wow.
And he just asked me, he's like, hey, bro, I was just kind of wondering what you're doing on the weekends for the next year. Because he goes, you know, I've got a few opportunities that might be suited for you, you know, and one of them was to perform with Hookers and Blow.
Wow.
Because I guess Dizzy Reed had gotten picked up with the Guns N' Roses reunion.
Wow.
And wouldn't be available for those performances, so that was on the table. And then he had kind of hinted at a possibility of singing with Quiet Riot, but he kept it very vague. He's like, look, wink, wink, there might be a Quiet Riot opportunity as well, and I didn't think too much about it. So he sent me some recordings of Come On, Feel the Noise, and then Bang Your Head, Mental Health, and I recorded my vocals on those tracks, and within a day or two, I received a call from Frankie Benali to offer me the gig with Quiet Riot.
Wow, you know, that's kind of interesting. Now let me ask you, were you at all a Quiet Riot fan growing up?
I remember watching the videos when I was a young kid. Mm-hmm. I think it was like Top 40 Video or Midnight Videos or something. And I definitely remember that part of music history. I was very young when it happened, you know, so I can't say I was a quote-unquote fan, but I was definitely aware of the music and
who they were.
I was definitely aware of who they were, plus my father's involvement in the music business. You know, my dad had worked with Carlos Cavasso, and my dad had worked with a lot of those guys, Paul Shortino with Rough Cut, Ratt. You know, my dad was like a huge player in the 80s rock and heavy metal scene back during that time in Los Angeles.
Wow, that's kind of interesting. You've kind of come full circle. We'll get on into that a little more later. But now, once you got the offer to join Quiet Riot, was it just a matter of Frankie calling you and offering you a job, or did you have to go down and audition?
There was no audition per se. It was really based on the strength of the recordings that I had made for them. And Frankie told me that he had spent a considerable amount of time researching me online, that he had watched numerous YouTube videos, that he had talked to Alex and several other people in the industry and had gotten a full profile on me, and that he was confident and secure in his decision to bring me on as the permanent lead singer.
Wow. And now let me ask you, because I know you and Alex have been friends, did you guys play together in Adler's Appetite? 'Cause I know he's also gone through that band at one point.
Yeah, in 2009, when we did that U.S. tour, Alex was the guitar player for that tour.
Okay. And so what was it like to get back with him, you know, your old friend Alex, and, you know, be performing with him? And once you got in the room with the guys, I mean, as far as performing the old material, like, was there any pressure? But did they want you to sound just like Kevin DuBrow doing the old Quiet Riot classics, or did they want you to kind of go in there and, you know, put your twist on the tunes?
Well, okay, so that's a multi-tiered question, so I'll just kind of take it one step at a time.
Sure.
Reuniting with Alex was great. You know, he and I had been through a lot from that 2009 tour, and it was just a great feeling to reconnect with him. It really did feel like seeing a good friend for the first time in a long time. And, you know, my connection with Alex was really what drove me to want to be a part of the band, you know?
Yeah.
And I had a lot of great conversations with Alex and talking about the future of the band and, you know, what it meant to be coming on board as the singer of the band. And I felt really good about it. So I started learning the songs. The guys were real supportive, sending me plenty of materials to learn all the songs. To be honest, I only knew the 2 songs that I had sang for the audition. I didn't know any of the rest of their material. So it was a whole new experience, like learning their catalog and singing songs like Slick Black Cadillac and, you know, all the rest of the songs.
So let me ask you, Shine, from the time you got the gig, because I know you've done a few live shows with the band. At that point, like, did you go right on tour and do live shows right away, or were you in the studio recording at the same time?
Well, what happened is right when I joined the band, like within a week or two, I started receiving raw MP3s of just tracks, just music with no lyrics or vocals. So I went ahead and started writing lyrics and melodies over their music.
Oh, okay.
And, I wrote and recorded a full 15 songs for the record, for the Road Rage album.
Okay. And now, next question now, in regards to the live shows that you did do with the band, from the time you got the gig, I mean, how much practice did you get before you did your first live show with the band?
I had 2 rehearsals before my first show with Quiet Riot.
Yeah, and part of the reason I'm asking is because after it was announced that you were let go from the band, it was kind of said, oh, well, Sean couldn't hack it live and this and that. Was that? I mean, tell your side of the story, because I would think it might have something to do with how much time you got to practice. Did that play a role in that, or do you care to respond to those, those things that were said about, you didn't really know the tunes in that?
Well, I've never heard that explanation. I read some of the official statements made by Frankie Banali. There were personal and professional differences, and I think that that's probably the most accurate description of why that situation didn't work out. My ability to sing the songs or perform the songs was never brought into question, never once.
Okay.
So, yeah, I'm not sure where you're getting that
from. Well,
but
I've read various things like saying that, once you guys started doing the live shows, that it just they felt it wasn't working. But again, I've read a lot of stuff online. But so that's why it's good that you can clarify that and straighten that up.
Yeah, there was never an issue of my ability to sing those songs or perform those songs live. It really came down to a clash of personality and personal and professional ethics between me and Frankie Banali.
And so, how many shows would you say you'd actually done with the band before you were let go?
I did 5 shows with the band before I was let go. And I got to say that the entire experience of right from the very first rehearsal, dealing with Frankie Banali was an absolute nightmare. Before we had even stepped 1 foot in a rehearsal room, he was already, going out of his way to give me the cold shoulder and ignore me and treat me like less than a human being. He was cold. He was ruthless. He was just absolutely a nightmare to work with. And I don't think there's anybody on this planet that would have tolerated it for as long as I did. I gave everything that I had in all the good faith that I could muster up, all the goodwill that I could possibly, build up in my spirit to deal with him and his terrible personality. But there was just no way that any professional, self-respecting human being could work with that man.
And let me ask you, did you get a chance before you started working with these guys to see that Quiet Riot movie that they had put out a couple years ago? Because even since that movie's come out, they've gone through like 2 singers.
Yeah, hey Jason, I'm gonna have to pause for 1 second.
Sure, go ahead.
Okay, Jason?
Okay, yeah. We're back with Sean Nicols, and we were talking about, and we were kind of discussing, I was asking if you got a chance to see the Quiet Riot movie they put out a couple years back. The reason I was asking, because even since that movie's been released, they've gone through like 2 other singers, so I think, we kind of need an updated movie. But, did you get a chance to see that at all?
Yeah, I watched the movie, and, I tried to take it for what it was worth.
Yeah.
And in my opinion, it was really just a way to, bring fans into the current affairs of the band and to, reassociate fans that love that music from back in the day with what Quiet Riot was up to now.
Yeah.
I didn't make any personal judgments about anybody in the band.
Yeah.
I didn't watch it and go, oh, that's who Frankie is, or oh, that's who Alex or Chuck is.
Yeah.
Because, I understand media. I grew up in the entertainment business, and I realized that, a reality documentary show like that can be cut to, show a number of different things.
Yeah.
And I didn't want to, in other words, I didn't want to make any personal judgments on those guys based on that
movie.
That show, that movie.
And I guess part of the reason I'm asking that, I was kind of curious, like, after your experience of working with these guys and kind of seeing what the other two previous singers had gone through, would you say you had a similar situation?
Yeah, let's just cut right to the chase, okay?
Yeah.
That Quiet Riot is a very poorly run small business organization.
Okay.
Okay. They suffer from poor business ethics. Okay.
Uh-huh.
And a company is only as good as its leader.
Yeah.
Okay. And with Frankie Banali calling the shots, it's got a top-down effect of negativity. Okay. There is no way for that band to overcome the challenges they are facing as long as they have an intemperate, intolerant, unethical leader.
Yeah, and I got to go on record. I got to go on record telling people, I've never met Frankie or any of the guys. I will also go on record saying I'm a Quiet Riot fan, and I will be buying the new album just to kind of check it out and see what it is. But I do think, as a fan, after watching that movie, no, let's be honest. For Frankie to have lost his best friend Kevin Dubrov, that he's played with all these years, that has to be a pretty tough thing to go through. But I think part of what he's going through is you need a new singer. You need a guy to front the band. Unfortunately, Kevin can't do it anymore. But if you think you're going to get a Kevin Dubrow clone to do it just the way he did it, I mean, that's, unless you're going to be in a tribute band, that's very hard to do.
There will never be anybody to, quote-unquote, replace Kevin Dubrow.
Yeah.
He is a unique individual, and just like every human being, he is irreplaceable. Every human being is a unique, special person that should be valued and respected for their qualities.
Yeah.
Okay? Moving forward, Frankie Banali just has to come to terms with what his real motives are.
Yeah.
And, clearly he has an intense fear of failure.
Yeah.
And, he's not willing to accept responsibility for his choices, and he needs a scapegoat. And what more convenient excuse than to blame it on some new guy that's coming into a foreign situation that hasn't had enough time to adjust into the situation, and is not given the proper resources, and is not given the proper patience and support to, adequately adjust and settle into the situation. I think is an absolute... it's an absolute, what's the word I'm looking for? Injustice.
Oh, yeah.
It's an absolute injustice for him to pawn his failures off on anybody, let alone a singer who is stepping into a position trying to make the best of an opportunity that is something that is near and dear to their heart. Because I know that, I haven't, met all the other singers.
Yeah.
But I think having been in that situation, I can strongly relate to the feeling of, hey, I'm walking into something that's special. I'm walking into something that matters to people, and it matters to me. I'm sure it mattered to those other guys to do a good job. And people in general, want to do what they want to do their best.
Yeah.
And for Frankie to turn his failures on them and make them the scapegoat is a very cowardly thing to do.
Yeah, like I said, I'm a Quiet Riot fan going years back, but one thing I can say, like, even when Jizzy was in the band, they'd recorded some new music with Jizzy. At one point they'd released it just digitally, but then because I guess Frankie felt they couldn't get a proper record deal, he decided to pull the release, even digitally, and I thought, at least, okay, maybe now with Jizzy's out of the band, they could, add those tracks to a new record or something, but, so they have an album with Jizzy that's never really been officially released, which is kind of, sad. Now, when you were recording the Road Rage album with these guys, were you actually in the room with them when you were doing your parts?
I was given free rein to write and record those songs the way that I saw fit.
Uh-huh.
I have a state-of-the-art recording and production studio using, top-of-the-line equipment, Neumann microphones, Neve preamps, APIs, Universal Audios, all the top Class A equipment that's necessary to record top of the line record quality sound. When I delivered my final tracks to Frankie and his team, which was Neil Citron, primarily, I think, running the controls, I had no control of what those guys did in terms of the mix, even in terms of the editing. I did get to go in and record some background vocals at a studio in the Valley, and it became apparent to me at that time that Neil Citron did not have a good handle on the equipment and was not operating with modern production standard techniques. When I brought that to Frankie Benally's attention, he berated me, insulted me, and stonewalled me out of the process. And he told me that, when I had a Grammy on my wall, like Neil Citron, that maybe then he would consider what I had to say. But until then, Neil Citron had made more records than I could even imagine, and I had no place making any type of constructive criticism about the production process whatsoever.
And, it's kind of interesting you bring up that point, because I'd heard you talking to the guys on the Classic Metal show, and they'd actually premiered your Road Rage song when you'd put it out there digitally, after you'd left Quiet Riot, or been let go rather, and they were even making comments, they loved your version of the song, but they felt the mix wasn't that good. So other people are saying that, not just you.
Well, look, I'm not a mind reader, and I'm definitely not a fortune teller, but it was pretty clear to me, based on what I had witnessed in the studio that day, just recording those background vocals, that the standard of their production was not going to be up to snuff with modern day standards.
Wow. And it's kind of amazing, because the thing of it is I was kind of amazed when it was announced that you were let go from a band, and they were still planning to release the album with your vocals on it, even after they'd gotten James Durbin. I mean, that was the original announcement, and then I think it's kind of smart that since you're no longer in the band, if they're going to redo it or whatever. But what are your feelings about them redoing the album, or the Road Rage album they're releasing? Is it going to be different songs? Do you know?
Well, you're getting into some very tricky territory right now.
Okay. I understand.
I have an attorney that has been in contact with Frankie Benally's attorney on behalf of Quiet Riot. And through extensive, I guess you could call it, deliberations between the attorneys, we have definitely established that I am at the very least a 33.33% co-owner of every song on the Road Rage record. And I have made it very clear in writing to Frankie Benally, his agents, as well as Frontiers Records, that I will diligently defend my rights as a co-owner of those songs, regardless of whether they use my words and vocals and melodies or not.
Oh, good for you.
That's the way the law reads, and that's my position. I've consulted with an attorney on this, actually multiple attorneys. And so I stand firmly in that position. Furthermore, I am entitled to 50% of all the writers and publishing royalties that are generated from that record. So this has yet to be resolved.
Good for you.
Thank you. They are taking the position that they will owe me and pay me nothing. However, that is not consistent with the statutes and the laws, the way that they are written. So they are, they are ignoring the laws the way that they're written, and it obviously requires. The economy and our whole system requires compensation to people that do work. And for them to think that they could just take my work and, write over it and change it and do what they want with it and put it out and give me absolute no credit and just treat me like I never existed is an absolute injustice.
We shall we shall see what happens, because, their album's coming out, August 4th, like I said, and so I'll be interested to hear that. But now, I also read online, I know you're going through these legal issues with the guys, but also read online that you had actually won the copyright lawsuit or something, because I know initially you put out the Road Rage single and they tried, and that went up on YouTube, and then they somehow pulled it, but it went back up there. Can you talk at all about that?
Yeah, here's what happened. Okay, I took a song that I wrote, lyrics and melodies that I wrote, and I redid the music and changed the music and re-recorded all those tracks and created for what would basically be considered a derivative work of a song that I wrote, which as a songwriter I have every right to do.
Yeah, yeah.
And I released that music, and then Neil Citron, in connection with Frankie Benali, issued false takedown notices on YouTube and iTunes and through my digital distributor, TuneCore, to have all of my work pulled down in accordance with the Digital Millennium Copyright Act, the DMCA.
Wow.
Yeah, so they exercise this because there's this, the DMCA basically says that if anybody disputes copyright ownership, that they automatically pull it down for 10 business days.
Wow.
And this was a really low blow move. It was a low thing to do. This is where I come in with the term unethical.
Yeah,
it was just flat out unethical, and I'll say it was just flat out wrong. They knew that what they were doing was wrong, and they did it to intentionally prevent me from having the success or the exposure with the song that I was aiming for. So they have to deal with that. They have to deal with the repercussions of their decisions. As a bitch, and they have to live with themselves.
Again, congratulations on your victory. I got to ask you. So you said anytime anybody tries to have any kind of dispute, they take it down for 10 days. So what did you have to do, to get them to put it back up and prove that you were actually, a writer on this song?
Well, I had to consult an attorney, and then I had to write a counterclaim to YouTube and my digital distribution company to say that, hey, no, I actually do have the right to release this material, and this is my reasoning, and this is this is my legal grounds. These are my copyright numbers, which I have everything copywritten and registered with the Copyright Office.
Very smart on your part.
and then they gave Frankie Benali and his agents, i.e. his attorneys and other people connected with his cause, the opportunity to file a case against me in federal court.
Yeah.
Their failure to file that case in federal court is what caused YouTube and Apple and TuneCore and all of my other digital distribution outlets to release the song and put it back out again, because they saw, okay, these guys are not taking any court action, so therefore we're not going to honor their request to pull this down, and they restored it. So it was kind of like a settlement outside of court.
Yeah. Now I know you put out the road. I know you put out the Road Rage single. I'd also heard that there's a possibility that you may put an actual physical copy, like Shawn Nicols' version of Road Rage. Is that in the works at all, or can you talk about that?
It's something that I'm reserving all my rights to release these songs in their original form, which is the way that they were recorded with the original guys from Quiet Riot, or in any other derivative form, which would be like what I released with Road Rage, where I actually worked with some other very talented musicians to produce a brand new version of the song that I originally wrote for Quiet Riot's Road Rage record. So this is something that I'm, it's property that I own.
There you go.
And I may do something with it. I most likely will do something with it. The exact timing, I'm not sure, but as an educated businessman, I will be definitely keeping my eyes open for the right opportunity to release that music in the most effective way possible.
Yeah, because like I said, initially, even when it was announced that you were let go by the band, initially they said, we're going to still put this album out there with Shawn Nicols, and we're going to go out on tour behind it. Now, of course, they've since re-recorded with their new singer, James Durbin. Now, one cool thing I think for the fans is, like, if you put out your version, even it was originally recorded with the guys, you can say, okay, this is original. This is what it would sound like with me doing the songs, the guy who wrote the songs. And then you have the James Durbin version. People can kind of compare it to. That's one cool thing I think about it, because you still get, since you're the guy that wrote the song, people will actually get to hear your version of what the songs originally sounded like.
Yeah, I've actually considered releasing a session version, to just release the unmixed session versions of those songs, just to give fans an idea of the direction that I was taking Quiet Riot with my writing. I've had a lot of requests for that, and it's something that is very possible. I said, I'm just kind of reading the signs right now, and waiting to make a decision on that. On how to proceed with that.
Because you could either release it like that, or like you said, you could even go in another group of musicians, and or you could release two different versions, one with different musicians, and you could say, if I had a chance to record these songs the way I wanted to, this is what it would sound like. Now, two more questions regarding Quiet Riot, and then we'll move on. Now, so you said you weren't really happy with the way you were being treated when you were working with the band. So I take it you weren't that surprised when the word came down that, hey, your services are no longer needed.
No, I was not surprised. It almost seemed like Frankie was looking for a reason to fire me the second I got into the band, and it didn't really make a whole lot of sense to me. The dissension. The dissension and the decline of the relationship that I had with Frankie Banali, because in the beginning, you got to understand, it started out great.
Yeah.
I mean, Frankie was hailing me every time I'd send him a song that I'd written. He goes, "Oh my God, amazing, capital genius." Wow. By the time I had written the 12th or 13th song, he was calling me Song Boy.
Wow.
He was just elated, and he couldn't be happier. He even told me that he looked forward to waking up every day and getting a new song in his inbox to hear what I had done to turn his raw music into an actual song. And
of course, you said you'd only done 5 shows with the band. I was curious, during those 5 shows, how did you get a chance to see how the audience reacted to you, or would you say 5 shows doesn't really give you that opportunity to see that?
Oh, no, it was right from the very first show. The audience response was electric.
Wow.
There was no question about whether or not, I could, fill that position. I mean, that was obvious, I mean, it was just the thing that was the hardest about those shows was the pressure that I was receiving behind the scenes from Frankie Banali.
Wow.
And it was like he was looking for something to nail me on, but he didn't have anything to get me on. And in fact, the only thing that he had on me after 5 days of touring was that I was 3 minutes late to the shuttle at 4:03 a.m. to catch a 6:30 flight from the airport from our last gig. So, and then he started berating me. He's like, obviously your business degree didn't teach you how to set an alarm. Otherwise, you wouldn't have been 3 minutes late for a shuttle call.
Wow.
And that was about the extent of his.
Yeah. It's kind of sad it had to end that way. But now you said one great thing in the beginning was kind of reconnecting with Alex Grossi. Now, of course, he doesn't have much say. He's got to kind of toe the line, do what Frankie says. But did all this have any effect on your friendship with him, or would you say you and him are able to remain friends?
Well, I think it would be very hard for us to maintain a friendship after some of the disparaging statements that he's made about me publicly.
Okay, yeah.
But it makes sense. Unfortunately, for Alex, he associates business with being cutthroat.
I hear you.
And it's going to take some time for him to learn, maybe after he burns enough bridges, to realize that no good business can sustain itself by, being cutthroat with other people.
Again, kind of sad.
Good business is about building long-lasting alliances, strategic partnerships that are win-win for everybody. And until he learns that, until Frankie learns that, those guys are doomed.
Kind of sad, that it'd have to end that way, but it is what it is. And part of the reason I asked was because I'd recently done an interview with Alex, and I kind of I was interviewing about the project he'd actually done with James Durbin, and I was asking him, can you comment on what happened with Shawn Nichols? And he said, it just wasn't really working. He didn't say anything bad about it. He was just like, it just wasn't working with Shawn. And then he said, we really wanted James Durbin from the get-go, but he wasn't available at the time. Now, since being
let me clear that up.
Yeah.
Let me clear that lie up for you right now, okay?
Yeah.
Because James Durbin wasn't even in the fold when I came into the fold. James Durbin came into the fold after I had already joined the band.
Okay.
And I believe that they started looking at him as a potential replacement when, Frankie realized that he wasn't going to be able to pull the wool over my eyes and screw me out of my writing credit and screw me out of money that I was entitled to for, recording.
Wow.
And that's really what it came down to. I wanted to say something else that, hold on one second.
Sure, go ahead.
Pause for 1 second. Let me just catch my breath for a second.
Sure.
Hold on, I'm thinking about something.
Why is that?
And you'll be able to edit this up and kind of piece it all together so it flows, right?
Yeah, it's flowing real nice, no problem. Yeah.
Okay, so let me think here. Alex, I wanted to tell you something really important.
Okay, well, because I mentioned.
Here we go. I got it. Okay, let's roll.
Okay.
Let's roll.
We're rolling.
Okay. So Alex, I'm on a phone interview right now. They're sound checking, right? Yeah, that's fine. They can just sound check my vocal mic. So Alex might say that it became clear that things weren't working, but just for the sake of transparency, it should be known that Alex had told me that getting along with Frankie was the hardest part of this gig.
Wow.
Okay? And that bending myself to Frankie's whim would be, that he was counting on me to, bend to Frankie to make it work. Mm-hmm. And, and I understood. So basically, they brought me in because they thought that I would be the perfect babysitter.
Wow.
To give Frankie his way.
Wow.
And still give the band what they wanted, which was a quality singer.
Yeah.
You see, because Alex had told me when I came into the band that I was the best vocalist that he had ever worked with. And that I was the first person on his list to be in Quiet Riot, and that if he had it his way, that I would be the last vocalist for Quiet Riot.
That's kind of interesting because like I said, I interviewed Alex about this Hollywood map of Hollywood stars or something like that he'd done with James Durbin. They put out a CD together, and I kind of got thinking, when I was talking to him, like, okay, so did you do this CD with James Durbin? And Frankie kind of get the idea he wanted James Durbin for a band. He's like, oh no, not at all. Just James just wasn't available when we originally wanted him. So I kind of thought that was interesting.
It's a complete lie, is what it is, Jason. Yeah. It's a complete lie. They're trying to cover their tracks. If you go back to the Eddie Trunk interview, where Eddie Trunk interviews Frankie Benali says right there that he doesn't do anything on accident, that he had fully checked me out, and that he was very confident that I was the guy. Okay? It's just that when he started interacting with me, and when I approached him after spending over 200 hours recording the Road Rage record, and putting my time into writing those songs, and approaching him about that and saying, hey, am I going to be part of this record deal or what? And when I started asking questions about the record deal, and I started questioning about my royalties, and I started wanting things in writing, that's when he became very defensive, and then took a cutthroat position with me, and then started to quickly try to edge me out.
Yeah, kind of what I know about that is, even Alex and Chuck are kind of, Frankie kind of needs them because they were the last incarnation of Quiet Riot with Kevin. But Frankie's the one that actually owns the band name. They're even kind of hired guns too. So that's kind of an interesting thing. Now, the last Quiet Riot related question I want to ask you is, will you be checking out their Road Rage release when it comes out August 4th? Just to kind of, are you at all interested to see what they did to your tunes?
Yeah, I am interested to see what they're going to do with my songs. Those are my songs. I'm a co-owner on those songs, and I never officially gave them permission to write on those songs with anybody else. So it'll be interesting to see what they do without my permission. Okay,
and now following your exit from Quiet Riot, very shortly after, you got a call from Bobby Blotzer asking you to join his version of Ratt. Can you talk at all about that?
Yeah, it was just a very serendipitous occurrence. It was not planned. It was just completely It was a complete synchronicity. Literally, right around the same time I had gotten the termination letter from Frankie Benali via email and FedEx or whatever it was, certified mail, I got a phone call from Bobby Blotzer in a group conference call with the rest of the band, and we discussed the possibility of me performing with them in North Dakota.
Okay.
And they had another singer that was on board to do it, but I guess the band felt unanimously that, you know, they wanted to have me fill the position for the future of moving forward, you know. As a result of being in Ratt, I've you know, come to know the details of the legal situation.
Oh, yeah.
And while I don't want to,
Get
you
into
know,
that.
officially comment on it or become, you know, entwined in their battles or their struggles, you know, I can say that after reviewing the paperwork, it became clear to me that Bobby at the time is still the rightful owner of the trademarks under the corporation. And there's a lot of fake news floating around that's saying that the partnership, I don't know all the details, okay? But what I did see is I ran it, you know, because it's important to me to act ethically. So when I saw that Bobby Blotzer was the rightful owner of the trademark, I had no qualm with going ahead and performing with him as Ratt.
Okay. Now, can you all get into this? Because it was recently announced that the other guys had taken over you know, his Facebook page, and that they were allowed to do that. And it seems like Bob has kind of gone underground. Do you know why that is? Because there's been a lot of talk that, you know, Steven and Warren and Juan, they're the only ones that have the right to Ratt name. Can you comment at all on that?
Yeah, to my knowledge, Bobby Blotzer has not lost control of the Ratt Facebook page.
Okay.
He still maintains control of that page. And from my understanding of the situation, while Bobby is still the owner of the Ratt trademark, he cannot prevent the other guys from performing as Ratt.
Okay.
As of now, until this thing gets settled. It's kind of they're in litigation.
Okay.
They are going back and forth in court, and there is an appeal on the horizon.
Okay.
But from what I gather, Bobby Blotzer is in a position to claim ownership over the Ratt trademark and name, and I have every reason to believe that he will prevail in the end.
Now, do you know anything? Because originally it was thought that him and Warren DeMartini each own like 50%. So, being that Warren's with the other guys, I mean, essentially, I would think it could be like the LA Gun situation where you could legally have two different Ratt bands out there.
Yeah, this is not gonna go down like that, from what I understand.
Okay.
The only reason that those guys are able to perform as Ratt right now is because there's no way for Bobby to get a legal injunction to prevent them from performing as Ratt, as they do not have an injunction to prevent Bobby from performing as Ratt.
Yeah.
You see, they can't stop him from performing as Ratt, and he can't stop them from performing as Ratt. So right now, all this talk about, you know, Bobby being ousted from Ratt, that's all bogus. Okay, none of that stuff is true. Okay, right now they're all fighting over the trademark, and there is a judgment, a summary judgment in place right now.
Okay.
But that judgment is being contested by Bobby's legal team, and I have every reason to believe that it will be overturned because there's a double jeopardy law that says that a court cannot rule on the same issue twice.
Wow. Okay.
And there was a judgment that was posted. I don't know the exact date, but I think it was back in 2002 that, you know, firmly ruled on this matter. And these guys, Juan and Steven, came back years later, and they presented some new evidence, which we'll just call for now a sham document, which enabled them to get a ruling by a judge who was not fully up on all the facts, and the judge made a bogus ruling. So, you know, very, very seldomly will a judge, you know, go back on their ruling. It's embarrassing for them in the court. So it needs to be appealed, and that's what Bobby's going to do. He's going to appeal it. It just takes some time, and that's why these guys are out there touring as much as they can, because they can still legally get away with it right now. But I believe once it's appealed, that, you know, there's a very high likelihood that Bobby will prevail, and that those guys will be pushed back, because they all, you know, there's a long story. There's a lot that we could talk about. This is
I hear you.
Very complex topic. But those guys, one at a time, you know, they eliminated themselves from the Ratt organization, and, you know, it's something that they're trying to go back on now. And so there's a legal way to do it, and, you know, that's why they're in court, and everybody's trying to milk it for what they can get. I understand it, and that's why I said, you know, I'm a singer. I do understand business, and I do understand the law, so it is an interesting topic for me. I've learned a lot as a result of being involved, but you know, like I said, I'm not personally involved with any of this. I'm just trying my best to understand it.
And now, do you know anything to the fact, like I said, it was thought originally that Bob and Warren each owned 50% of the band, their WBS Corporation, whatever the case may be. So
I don't know what the exact split is. I don't know what the split is, but to my knowledge, Bobby is the sole controller of the of the WBS Corporation.
Oh, okay. So basically, if I'm reading that right, kind of for the fact that he refused to tour with Bob's version of the band, kind of saying like he walked away from whatever he had in the band. Is that correct?
Well, look, a corporation has a responsibility to its shareholders, okay, to do what is in the best interest of the organization, okay? Yeah. And if you have a controlling or operating member or a manager that is not acting in the corporation's best interest, then that corporation should have some measures in place to get rid of that director or that manager to forward the corporation's goals. Okay. And that is exactly what Bobby Blotzer was able to do. From what I was told and from the information I was given, Warren did not want to perform with the band and was holding it off for years, and Bobby wanted to play, and Bobby called a corporate meeting, which Warren did not attend, and his lack of attendance on one or more occasions caused him to be voted out of the corporation, and he lost his corporate rights. So while he may still be a stakeholder in the organization, I do not believe he is an active decision maker or authority in the organization.
Okay, I hear you. Now, the very last question regarding the Ratt situation is, because last time Bob had commented all on his Ratt Facebook, he had mentioned that he was going to have some surgery and that he planned to be back out there touring, around June. Has he kind of decided, well, we're going to, settle this legal matter before we go out there and do any more shows? Or that's kind of where he's at right now?
I've been in contact with Bobby. He has had surgery. He is in recovery. Okay. And as of right now, that is the main issue right now. That's the reason why Ratt is not performing right now with Bobby Blotzer. He's planning on being healed up by the end of the year. Okay. And, we're hoping to get this legal stuff settled sometime early 2018. However, you've seen how long it's gotten dragged out. Yeah. There's really no way to know how long this is going to continue. But, it matters to Bobby. He's not doing anything that's not legal. Okay. He's protecting his rights as he should. It's his responsibility as a trademark owner to go after any trademark infringements, which is what he did when Juan Crucier was out performing with the Ratt logo. Yeah. Bobby Blotzer did what he is legally responsible to do to protect his property. Yeah. I know that he's made some statements in the press that, people have said, oh, these are low or things like that. But knowing Bobby, he's a genuine guy. I know he rubs some people the wrong way. I get that, okay? But he is not doing anything that's not legally correct. And now he's taking the right legal steps to protect what he owns.
And again, you're just a singer in the band. You're not involved with any of these legal issues directly. But in regards to the lawsuit against Juan, because it was all over the internet that supposedly the judgment there was found in favor of Juan. Can you comment at all on that, or do you know anything about what's going on there?
Well, see, that's where the misinformation really goes awry, because it wasn't like it was found in favor of Juan. It just means that Juan was not. It did work in Juan's favor.
That's what I mean.
Okay?
Yeah.
It just basically means that he was not able to get an injunction against Juan.
Okay.
And sue him for using the Ratt
logo. Yeah.
The Ratt logo. Okay, it didn't go in his favor. He didn't win the name Ratt. Now he owns it.
No.
You see what I mean? It's just that the action that was taken against him, was not successful.
Yeah, because it's kind of interesting to hear your take on this, because even the huge Ratt fan I am, and I've been following the lawsuit because it was announced that Bobby Blotcher is suing Juan Crocier, and then it was announced that the judge found in favor of Juan, and then it almost seemed like after that was announced that had to do with why now Juan Crocier, he's one of the partners in Ratt, he's got his ownership in the Ratt name back, and that's what
none of that is true.
Okay.
None of that is true. Okay, all that means is that there was an injunction lawsuit, and in order to get an injunction, you have to prove that there's I don't know the legal term for it, but that there's enough confusion created in the public, to warrant an injunction. So I don't think that they could prove enough confusion to get an actual injunction, and that's what makes this whole situation such a mess.
Okay.
It's because these guys are all fighting over a band that they started. They all want to use the name, but they can't get along.
Yeah.
Okay, so you have to go by the letter of the law, and it has to be, figured out in black and white terms, and that's what's taking so long. So they're having to go back and rehash the whole history of how everybody got to where they are today. And there have been a lot of events that have unfolded, and there have been several legal rulings that have transpired that have brought things to where they are today. And the courts are very slow.
Yeah.
And it's a very drawn out process. In the end, it's all going to work out. It's just going to take more time than everybody wanted or expected. Yeah. But no, there's been no major victory. It's not like Juan won and he owns the Ratt name, and Ratt is reunited and they kicked out Bobby. That is complete.
Oh, BS. Okay.
That's total BS.
And now, before we wrap this up, because I know you're very busy tonight, getting ready for a show, we can't wrap this up before we talk a little bit about your current gig with Westfield Massacre. So you have some downtime from Ratt, but how did this gig come about? Because I kind of think it's a great thing for both parties. I mean, since you've joined Westfield Massacre, it seems like the band's got a little bit more of a boost, people more aware of the band. I think it works for you. It's a great gig for you. Talk a little bit about how the opportunity came about. You're mentioning Ira Black earlier, so I guess you kind of come full circle with that.
Yeah, I mean, Ira, I really owe so much to Ira for, pulling me back into music after my long hiatus. And Ira and I have worked on various projects together, and we've always been aiming toward being in a band together. And we've had a few close calls, but it just never really materialized. And just circumstances as they were, just everything kind of worked together. They lost their singer, and they needed somebody. And Ira contacted me, and I recorded some music for them. Very similar type of thing as with Ratt and Quiet Riot. I recorded my voice over their music, singing some of their songs, and they heard it, and they were impressed. And then I went in and recorded some original parts, some original lyrics and melodies over their music, and they were further impressed. And so then we got together and we started working, and then we started playing together, and they already had a tour booked, and we started rehearsing in the room together and working on the songs, and now we're halfway through our first U.S. tour.
Wow. And how's that been going?
Working out great.
How the live shows been going?
The live shows they just keep getting better and better. More and more people are turning out.
Yeah.
The stuff is just all over social media, and we're just gaining more and more support every show. There's more and more people, and the band and I, we get along great. Everybody's on the same page. These guys they're professional, they're talented, they're positive, they're everything that I would ever want in a band. They're everything that it takes to make it in music. They've got all the right qualities.
So let me ask you, Sean, now, if and when Ratt gets back up and running, will you be both the frontman for Ratt and Westfield Massacre?
I I don't see any reason why not.
That's great.
You know, obviously, you know, things can be scheduled, you know, and we're just going to have to see how it all plays out. You know, Bobby is a friend of mine.
Okay.
And I will do whatever I can to help him along the way. If at any time it comes up to where maybe I can't do it or I'm not available, then I would absolutely help him to find someone that could fill that spot.
Okay.
Or vice versa. You know, like I'm just kind of playing this by ear. I'm taking it as it comes. You know, like the music business is very complex.
Yeah.
Anything could happen any day. We never know what's going to happen day to day.
Yeah, you know, so it's kind of interesting how this has played out, because you're a guy, like you said, until 2016. You had been out of the music business for several years. You'd been kind of still involved in recording projects, but you've been really kind of in the a bigger profile the last year, and I think it's a great thing that you're finally out there. You're getting the recognition you deserve now. In regards to Westfield Massacre, I got to ask, because I'd actually interviewed your band's drummer, Dio Brito, a couple of months back, talking about him being a Kiss fan, and he'd actually performed at one of those jam nights when they did Kiss, and I talked to him about the 40th anniversary of Kiss's album Destroyer, but he mentioned that they were working on an album at the time and that they had a fundraising campaign going on. Have you guys done any more recordings since you've joined the band, or where are you as far as an album with them?
Yes, we are working on our album. We have started recording several songs, and we are in the writing, recording, and production process. So as soon as we finish this tour, which will be early August, we have another show scheduled at the Viper Room on August 11th. And in that time, during the month of August and September, we are going to be diligently working on this record, writing, recording, and working on the production to hone this thing and get it ready for release.
And how great is it, coming from these other, two experiences with, both Ratt and Quiet Riot, very different experiences, obviously, but where you had, you're placing guys that were well-known, Kevin Dubrow, Stephen Pearcy, to come into this band, Westfield Massacre. You guys are kind of doing your thing together, and you have a real opportunity to come in the band and kind of shape it and do your own thing. How great of a feeling is that?
It's amazing, and I can't tell you how supportive these guys have been in encouraging me to really use my voice.
That's great.
And not to have to emulate anybody else or fit into any preconceived mold.
There you go.
It's a very freeing feeling, and as a creator and an artist, there's nothing better. So I'm very thankful for that opportunity.
And so as far as Westfield Massacre, you're currently touring with them. As far as a CD, I'm expecting that maybe it'll come sometime in 2018.
2018 or possibly sooner.
That's great.
We're in negotiations and talks with a few different entities, and we're just trying to figure out what's best for the band moving forward.
Okay, well, Sean, I'd like to thank you once again taking time to talk to me today. It's been a pleasure. Like I told you when we were setting this up, I tend to ramble on, but my whole point in doing this is give you an opportunity to really let people know who you are and tell your story, and I think we did that. So anytime you want to do this or have anything to promote, please feel free to reach out to me, and I'd be more than happy to interview you again. It was a real pleasure talking to you.
I appreciate that so much, Jason. Thank you.
Okay, thanks again. We've been talking with Sean Nicols from the band Westfield Massacre, and it's been a pleasure talking to you, Sean. Take care of yourself, okay?
Cool, man. Thank you.
Bye-bye.